Yes, it is permissible to run a raceway of 3-inch polyvinyl chloride or PVC conduit for future non-metallic or NM cables. National Electrical Code, or NEC, Article 358.10 allows for the installation of conduit for future use, as long as the conduit is not permanently closed off. You can terminate the conduit with a terminal adapter and bushing. However, there are two important considerations: firstly, accessible adapter, and secondly, insulated bushing. The terminal adapter must be accessible after the wall is closed. This means it should be installed in a location that will not be covered by drywall or other materials. The bushing must be listed for use with NM cables and must provide insulation between the conduit and the cables. When installing NM cables in the future, you must follow these requirements: firstly, size of conduit; secondly, number of cables; and thirdly, cable support. The conduit must be sized appropriately for the number and size of NM cables being installed. The conduit cannot be filled to more than 40.0% of its capacity with NM cables. NM cables must be supported within the conduit every 48.0 inches. The use of a larger conduit size, such as 3 inches, provides additional space for future cables and flexibility in case of future changes. It is recommended to seal the top of the conduit with a weather-resistant sealant to prevent moisture from entering. Label the conduit clearly to indicate its purpose and the direction of the cables. By following these guidelines, you can ensure that the installation of the PVC conduit and future NM cables is permissible and meets code requirements. In general electrical wiring, it is crucial to adhere to the National Electrical Code, or NEC, and local regulations to ensure safety and compliance. Conduit systems, particularly PVC conduits, play a significant role in protecting and routing electrical conductors. This discussion addresses the installation and use of PVC conduits for future NM cable runs, focusing on NEC requirements, best practices, and practical considerations. PVC conduit is a popular choice for electrical installations due to its durability, resistance to corrosion, and ease of installation. It is commonly used in both residential and commercial settings to protect electrical conductors from physical damage and environmental factors. Article 358.0 of the NEC covers the requirements for PVC conduit, including its permitted uses, installation methods, and specifications. One of the key advantages of using conduit is the ability to install conductors at a later time without having to disturb the building structure. This is particularly useful in scenarios where future electrical needs are anticipated but not immediately required. The NEC permits the installation of empty conduits for future use, provided that certain conditions are met. These conditions ensure that the conduit system is properly installed and maintained, and that it can safely accommodate conductors when they are installed in the future. When installing PVC conduit for future NM cable runs, it is important to consider the following factors: firstly, conduit size; secondly, conduit fill; thirdly, support and securement; fourthly, termination; fifthly, accessibility; and sixthly, labeling. The size of the conduit must be appropriate for the number and size of NM cables that will be installed in the future. The NEC provides tables and guidelines for determining the correct conduit size based on the conductor fill. It is important to select a conduit size that allows for adequate space for the conductors to be installed without overcrowding. Overcrowding can lead to overheating and insulation damage, which can pose a fire hazard. The conduit fill refers to the percentage of the conduit's cross-sectional area that is occupied by conductors. The NEC limits the conduit fill to prevent overheating and to ensure that conductors can be easily pulled through the conduit. For NM cables, the conduit fill is typically limited to 40.0%. This means that the total cross-sectional area of the NM cables installed in the conduit cannot exceed 40.0% of the conduit's cross-sectional area. Proper support and securement of the PVC conduit is essential to maintain its structural integrity and to prevent damage to the conductors. The NEC requires that conduit be securely fastened to supporting structures at specified intervals. The spacing between supports depends on the size and type of conduit, as well as the type of supporting structure. In general, smaller conduits require more frequent support than larger conduits. The termination of the PVC conduit must be done properly to ensure a secure and reliable connection. The NEC requires that conduit be terminated with fittings that are listed for use with the type of conduit being installed. For PVC conduit, this typically involves the use of terminal adapters and bushings. Terminal adapters are used to connect the conduit to electrical boxes or enclosures. Bushings are used to protect the conductors from abrasion as they enter or exit the conduit. The terminal adapter must be accessible after the wall is closed. This means it should be installed in a location that will not be covered by drywall or other materials. Accessibility is important for future maintenance and modifications to the electrical system. The bushing must be listed for use with NM cables and must provide insulation between the conduit and the cables. Proper labeling of the PVC conduit is essential to identify its purpose and to indicate the direction of the cables. The NEC requires that conduit be labeled with durable markings that are legible and readily visible. The label should indicate the type of conductors that are permitted to be installed in the conduit, as well as any other relevant information. In addition to the above factors, it is also important to consider the following best practices when installing PVC conduit for future NM cable runs. Firstly, use high-quality materials. Secondly, follow manufacturer's instructions. Thirdly, inspect the installation. Fourthly, seal the conduit. And fifthly, document the installation. Use high-quality PVC conduit and fittings that are listed for use in electrical installations. Avoid using substandard materials that may be prone to damage or failure. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for installing the PVC conduit and fittings. This will help to ensure that the installation is done correctly and that the conduit system will perform as intended. Inspect the installation carefully to ensure that all connections are tight and that the conduit is properly supported and secured. Correct any deficiencies before energizing the circuit. Seal the conduit to prevent moisture from entering and damaging the conductors. This is particularly important in damp or wet locations. Document the installation by creating a detailed drawing or diagram that shows the location of the conduit, the size and type of conductors, and any other relevant information. This documentation will be helpful for future maintenance and modifications to the electrical system. By following these guidelines, you can ensure that the installation of the PVC conduit and future NM cables is permissible and meets code requirements. Additionally, it is always recommended to consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that the installation is done safely and in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. The discussion above covers the installation and use of PVC conduits for future NM cable runs, focusing on NEC requirements, best practices, and practical considerations. By adhering to these guidelines, you can ensure that your electrical system is safe, reliable, and compliant with applicable codes and regulations. Remember to consult with a qualified electrician for any electrical work that you are not comfortable performing yourself. In addition to the general guidelines discussed above, there are some specific considerations that apply to running PVC conduit through walls for future NN cables. Firstly, fire stopping. Secondly, physical protection. Thirdly, support. Fourthly, accessibility. And fifthly, future access. When running PVC conduit through walls, it is important to ensure that the fire rating of the wall is maintained. This typically involves the use of fire-stopping materials to seal any openings around the conduit. The fire-stopping material should be listed for use with the type of wall construction and the type of conduit being installed. The PVC conduit should be protected from physical damage, particularly in areas where it is exposed to impact or abrasion. This can be achieved by using conduit guards or by routing the conduit in protected areas. The conduit should be adequately supported to prevent sagging or movement. This is particularly important when running conduit horizontally through walls. The spacing between supports should be in accordance with the NEC requirements. The terminal adapter and bushing should be accessible for future maintenance and modifications. This means that they should not be concealed behind drywall or other building materials. Consideration should be given to how future access to the NM cables will be achieved. This may involve the installation of pull boxes or other access points along the conduit run. By addressing these specific considerations, you can ensure that the installation of PVC conduit through walls for future NM cables is done safely and in accordance with applicable codes and regulations. In summary, the installation of PVC conduit for future NM cable runs is a permissible practice under the NEC, provided that certain conditions are met. These conditions include proper conduit sizing, fill, support, termination, accessibility, and labeling. By following these guidelines and best practices, you can ensure that your electrical system is safe, reliable, and compliant with applicable codes and regulations. Always consult with a qualified electrician for any electrical work that you are not comfortable performing yourself. The topics covered here are general in nature and may not be applicable to all situations. It is important to consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector to determine the specific requirements for your installation. Remember, electrical work can be dangerous and should only be performed by qualified individuals. Safety should always be your top priority. Let's delve into a more detailed exploration of these considerations to ensure clarity and a comprehensive understanding. When sizing the conduit, it is essential to account for the number of cables and their individual diameters. NEC Chapter 9, Table 4 and Table 5 provide detailed specifications on conductor and cable dimensions. Remember to factor in any future expansion plans to avoid the need for redoing the conduit system later. For instance, consider adding a 20.0% to 25.0% safety margin to the calculated conduit size to accommodate potential future cable additions. Concerning conduit fill, the NEC specifies that the maximum fill percentage for conduits containing multiple conductors is 40.0%. This ensures adequate heat dissipation and prevents physical damage to the cables during installation and operation. Using a conduit fill calculator, readily available online or in electrical handbooks, can aid in accurate calculations. The support and securement of PVC conduits are critical for maintaining their structural integrity and preventing sagging, which can compromise cable insulation and overall system performance. NEC Section 352.30 outlines the support requirements for PVC conduits, generally mandating support at intervals not exceeding 3 feet 36.0 inches and within 3 feet of each termination or coupling. The support method should comply with NEC Section 352.30b, which permits the use of straps, clamps, and hangers specifically designed for PVC conduits. When terminating the PVC conduit, ensure the use of terminal adapters and bushings listed for use with PVC and NM cables. These fittings must provide a smooth, rounded surface to prevent abrasion of the cable insulation during installation and operation. Moreover, the terminal adapter should be securely fastened to the conduit and the electrical box, maintaining the integrity of the grounding system if applicable. Accessibility is paramount for future maintenance and modifications. The terminal adapter and bushing should be installed in a location that remains accessible without requiring extensive demolition or disassembly. Consider installing an access panel or junction box near the termination point to facilitate future access to the cables. Proper labeling is crucial for identifying the purpose and contents of the conduit. NEC Section 310.11 provides guidelines for conductor identification. Use permanent, weather-resistant labels or markings to clearly indicate the intended use of the conduit and the direction of the cables. This ensures that future electricians or maintenance personnel can easily identify the system and avoid accidental damage or misconnection. In addition to these considerations, remember to seal the conduit to prevent moisture ingress and protect the cables from environmental factors. Use a listed sealant specifically designed for use with PVC conduits to seal all joints, couplings, and terminations. Furthermore, consider installing a pull wire or rope inside the conduit to facilitate future cable installation. This simple step can save significant time and effort when pulling cables through the conduit later on. Finally, always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. Electrical codes and regulations can vary depending on the location and application, so it is essential to stay informed and seek professional guidance when necessary. By adhering to these best practices and seeking professional advice, you can ensure that the installation of PVC conduit for future NM cable runs is safe, reliable, and compliant with all applicable codes and regulations. Now let's discuss the nuances of working with NM cables within a PVC conduit system. Firstly, NM cable characteristics. Secondly, conduit as protection. Thirdly, full capacity revisited. Fourthly, bending radius considerations. Fifthly, support within conduit. Sixthly, grounding implications. And seventhly, inspection readiness. NM cables, commonly known as Romex, are designed for dry indoor locations and are not inherently suitable for wet or damp environments. When used within a PVC conduit, the conduit provides an additional layer of physical protection against damage and environmental factors. However, it's crucial to ensure that the conduit system itself remains dry and properly sealed. The PVC conduit serves as a protective raceway, shielding the NM cables from physical damage such as impacts or abrasions, and environmental factors such as moisture and dust. This is particularly beneficial in unfinished areas or locations where the cables may be exposed to potential hazards. While the conduit provides protection, it's essential to maintain the integrity of the cable insulation and prevent any damage during installation or operation. Even though the NEC allows a 40.0% full capacity for conduits containing multiple conductors, it's advisable to exercise caution when using NM cables. NM cables are typically bulkier than individual conductors, and overcrowding the conduit can make cable pulling difficult and increase the risk of insulation damage. Consider dilating the full capacity slightly to ensure easier installation and prevent overheating. NM cables have a minimum bending radius specified by the manufacturer and the NEC. When routing NM cables within a conduit system, ensure that the bending radius is not violated. Sharp bends can damage the cable insulation and compromise its integrity, leading to potential electrical hazards. Pay close attention to the bending radius when making turns or transitions within the conduit system. Although the PVC conduit provides physical support to the NM cables, it's essential to provide additional support within the conduit, especially for long runs. Use cable ties or straps to secure the NM cables to the inside of the conduit at regular intervals, typically every 48.0 inches, to prevent sagging or movement. This ensures that the cables remain properly positioned and prevent strain on the terminations. While NM cables typically include a grounding conductor, the PVC conduit itself does not provide a grounding path. Therefore, it's crucial to ensure that the grounding conductor within the NM cable is properly connected to the grounding system at both ends of the conduit run. This maintains the integrity of the grounding system and provides a safe path for fault currents. Before energizing the circuit, thoroughly inspect the entire conduit system to ensure that all connections are tight, all supports are properly installed, and all cables are correctly positioned. Verify that the grounding system is intact and that all safety measures are in place. Address any deficiencies before placing the system into operation. By paying close attention to these specific considerations, you can ensure that the installation of NM cables within a PVC conduit system is safe, reliable, and compliant with all applicable codes and regulations. Always prioritize safety and seek professional guidance when necessary. Now let's discuss the specifics of terminating PVC conduit with terminal adapters and bushings, focusing on the correct materials, installation techniques, and code compliance. Firstly, selecting the right materials. Secondly, proper installation techniques. Thirdly, ensuring a secure connection. Fourthly, protecting the cables. Fifthly, grounding considerations. And sixthly, code compliance. Terminal adapters and bushings are essential components for properly terminating PVC conduit, providing a secure and protective transition between the conduit and the electrical box or enclosure. Select terminal adapters and bushings that are specifically listed for use with PVC conduit and NM cables. Ensure that the materials are made of durable, corrosion-resistant materials and are suitable for the environmental conditions in which they will be installed. Proper installation techniques are crucial for ensuring a reliable and long-lasting connection. When installing terminal adapters, apply a PVC solvent cement to both the inside of the adapter and the outside of the conduit. Insert the adapter into the conduit and twist it slightly to ensure even distribution of the cement. Hold the adapter in place until the cement has set following the manufacturer's instructions. Once the terminal adapter is securely cemented to the conduit, install the bushing onto the adapter. The bushing should fit snugly onto the adapter and provide a smooth, rounded surface for the cables to pass through. Securing a tight and reliable connection is essential for preventing moisture ingress and maintaining the integrity of the conduit system. Use appropriate tools, such as channel lock pliers or a strap wrench, to tighten the terminal adapter and bushing. Avoid over-tightening, as this can damage the materials. Once the terminal adapter and bushing are installed, carefully route the NM cables through the bushing, ensuring that they pass smoothly and without any sharp bends or kinks. The bushing should protect the cables from abrasion or damage as they enter the electrical box or enclosure. As previously mentioned, the PVC conduit itself does not provide a grounding path. Therefore, it's crucial to ensure that the grounding conductor within the NM cable is properly connected to the grounding system at the electrical box or enclosure. Use appropriate grounding connectors and techniques to establish a reliable grounding connection. Verify that the grounding system is intact and that all connections are secure. Ensure that the installation of terminal adapters and bushings complies with all applicable codes and regulations, including the NEC and local building codes. Pay close attention to the requirements for conduit support, grounding, and conductor protection. Obtain the required permits and inspections to ensure that the installation meets all applicable standards. By following these guidelines and best practices, you can ensure that the termination of PVC conduit with terminal adapters and bushings is done safely, reliably, and in compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. Always prioritize safety and seek professional guidance when necessary. To summarize, planning for future NM cable installations with PVC conduit is a strategic move that offers both protection and flexibility. Key considerations include proper conduit sizing, adherence to fill capacity limits, and ensuring easy access for future wiring needs. By implementing these measures, electrical systems can be easily adapted to meet changing demands without the need for extensive rework or disruption.